Today, we're exploring the world of martial arts, discipline, and personal growth with a unique voice in the field. Master Freddie Lee, owner and founder of Freddies Modern Kung Fu in Chicago. Known for blending traditional martial arts values with a modern street-style approach to training, Master Freddie has created more than just a school. He's built a community rooted in authenticity, self-awareness, and strength of character. In Master Freddie, I found a prideful man who takes his art and his school very seriously. In our discussion, we talk about the evolution of his style and his belief system, and I hope you find it entertaining as I found it equally interesting. Greetings, YouTube. It's your boy, OG Ant the Lone Wolf, live on the north side of Chicago. We are at Freddy's Modern Kung Fu with Sifu Freddy. How are you doing today, sir?
Good, good.
Good. Thank you for having us. Just a few quick questions about your school. If you could introduce yourself to our fans and the public, tell us about your school, its foundation, what you teach, what your philosophies are. We'll just let you go.
Okay.
You can take the mic.
All right.
Yeah.
So my name's Sifu Freddy Lee. Been training in martial arts for like over 30 years. And you know, most of my studies are kind of like an extension of Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do. He's a huge inspiration for me. I started martial arts training with a traditional style called Chole Phut. And the teacher at that time also had a son who was specializing in Wing Chun. So it's basically promoting the Chinese culture and things like that. When I went to college, I created my own like martial arts club. I called it Fighters United at the time.
Okay.
And it was basically designed for like multiple martial artists to join to train with each other. So I got a lot of experience from there, and then my prior experience, and then later on after college I went to law enforcement for about 4 years.
Wow.
Got some of the experience from there. After that, ended up opening my school. My school's been open since 2010 at this location. So I've been at the school teaching at the school for about 15 years. And, you know, martial arts is my passion. You know, I'm dedicated my life towards it. You know, just so happens that my last name is Lee, just like the great Bruce Lee.
Yes.
He's a huge inspiration for me. I also have 5 children that I train for the martial arts as well.
Fantastic.
You know, and even named my eldest son Brandon Lee. You know, and then my second is Jet Lee. I love the martial arts, and I love the Chinese culture. Very proud of where I came from and what it represents. You know, so it's just very important for me. The way that I teach is about the balance of the body, mind, and spirit. Be super fit, you know, kind of like Bruce was. And then be very, very strategic and scientific with your combative techniques, where what you're training in actually works in combat. You know, I'm not really about just training things that look nice or just things that, you know, to entertain people or to show off. It's about training in things that actually work. You know, so it's like very street scientific self-defense type of techniques. And then spiritual is extremely important. I categorize that for like meditation.
Sure.
So that's extremely important to turn it into the martial art. Without that, then I see that that's more like a sport. You know, so it's not martial sport and it's not combat sport, it's martial art. So I feel that not that many people represent it the proper way.
Agreed.
And I feel that Bruce Lee was one of the few that was representing it that way at a high level. So my goal is to try to kind of carry on with his legacy. He set a very high bar, but my goal is to kind of continue to promote his work during this modern time, and then also to do my best to express my version of the martial art. You know, so I don't call my art Jeet Kune Do because that was his, but this is my expression of my art. It just so happens that my school is called Freddy's Modern Kung Fu, but there really is no label that will adequately express it in its entirety.
Understood.
You know, essentially it's my Kung Fu.
Got it.
You know, because Bruce Lee, before he did the Jeet Kune Do, he called it Jun Fan Kung Fu. So essentially that's Bruce Lee's Kung Fu.
Right.
So you got Bruce Lee's Kung Fu, you might have Jackie Chan's Kung Fu, Jet Li's Kung Fu, and this is my Kung Fu that I'm trying to, you know, promote to the public.
Sure. Could you tell us what distinguishes, because you said you had your beginnings in Choi Li Foot, right? So what distinguishes Choi Li Foot from your technique as it's in its present form, how it's evolved now? What What's the distinguishing features of Choi Li Foot for those people who are not familiar with it?
Choi Foot is very power based. It's almost like the opposite of Wing Chun. Wing Chun is very linear. Choi Foot is very much like the haymakers and the uppercuts and the power strikes. So think about Choi Foot to be similar to maybe something like Muay Thai, and they use those big roundhouse kicks that are really powerful. Choi Foot focuses a lot on like power, like knockout blows. Like there's a very telegraphic but very powerful.
I was just going to ask you, does it make you more susceptible to, anticipating a move because it's so telegraphic?
It's very traditional, so it's good for performance. It's good to promote the Chinese culture and the arts, and it's something that you could tell this is Kung Fu. But my art is similar to the Jeet Kune Do, where I learned what I learned from there. I learned the principles of the Wing Chun. I learned, from other arts as well, from other styles, and just blend it together into what is ultimately the most effective. Because as I said, if you practice something, there's a weakness, like it's too telegraphic or it's just not fast enough or it just doesn't work, then why keep practicing something that doesn't work? So even if I promoted Choi Foot for 20 years, it's going to be hard for people to join something that they don't even know about. Notice that most people talk about Wing Chun because Bruce Lee is the one who introduced them to that. But if he didn't do that, Wing Chun would be similar to the Choi Foot. People wouldn't really be talking about it. And then it would be hard to promote Kung Fu when people don't have any reference point.
Gotcha.
So I really promote Jeet Kune Do because that's the closest to what I do. But I'm not going to say that I've gone beyond Bruce, but there's certain things that I do that he didn't express in his art, like the firearms, for example, various different weapons, and just kind of going further into the science of the combat, just basically leaving where he left off, because really he introduced us to something beautiful, but it's kind of like us that we have to complete the puzzle.
Sure, he was cut off too short.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't really have time to write enough, teach enough, and he expresses his art through video, and then unfortunately he died at the age of 32. But imagine if he lived till 90 or 100.
My God. How old would he be now? He would be in his 80s right now, right? When he'd be like 80 years old?
Yeah. So there's just so much that it could have evolved further to, and really people that are true disciples of him, they will carry it on and kind of complete it on their own. But he had access to Hollywood and he did have a lot of fame. But when you don't have that type of that kind of influence over the public, it's gonna be hard to generate a following for your art. So that's why a lot of people borrow labels and be like, hey, I teach Wing Chun, or I teach Tai Chi, or I teach, whatever's popular at that moment, so then they could generate interest towards their school and things like that. But
it's like the flavor of the month.
Yeah.
See, I noticed that there's a huge right now groundswell of people gravitating towards the combat arts such as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right? Because that's popular through MMA and UFC and things like that. And I personally feel it's one of the reasons why I started this channel is I felt like Chinese Kung Fu was being left to the side. Not enough light is being shined on the art that you and I both love. And so that's kind of why I'm doing this, what I'm doing. If I could ask you a quick question. You mentioned Bruce Lee, so clearly he's a huge influence for you as he was for myself. Who else growing up, who else did you admire? Who else did you look up to as far as martial arts? It could be film, it could be instructors. Is there anyone in particular that you really like, you had to watch them or you were enamored with watching them? Is there someone in particular?
When you are inspired by somebody like Bruce, and he set the standard that he set, it's hard to be inspired by anybody else but him. Because it's like Usain Bolt getting the fastest time. Who even cares about anything after that? It's kind of like, and it's also staying loyal to like your master. Like I look at it where. It's like, but I have been gravitated towards sages, not necessarily, I don't want to say like like just the martial art teachers, because I see like Bruce Lee was representing the pinnacle of the martial arts at that time.
Okay.
But he led me to Lao Tzu and the Tao Te Ching. You know, he led me to Eastern philosophy.
Okay.
And one of my favorite spiritual leaders to read from is Osho.
Okay.
You know, at the time Bruce Lee was studying J. Krishnamurti. That was one of his favorite.
Yes.
You know, so I got deeper into the Eastern philosophy. So really, he introduced me to masters to go deeper into Eastern philosophy.
Okay.
As far as like the combat is concerned, I don't really feel that anybody's truly representing it anything better than Bruce. So then at that point, it's like you have to represent it on your own.
Okay.
You got to establish your own name and do your best to try to do what Bruce was doing.
Okay.
Because even someone like Jet Li, you know, he was great, but he wasn't Bruce. Even with Jackie Chan, he's very popular, makes a lot of money, but he's not Bruce. You know, like I'm not just somebody who just, I like 100 martial arts. It's like I really focus on the number one.
Respect.
Because even when it comes to boxing, I love Floyd Mayweather Jr., the way he boxes, 50-0. You know, someone like Muhammad Ali, Bruce Lee was studying Muhammad Ali. So it's like when you meet that person that's that number one, that's kind of how I am. You know, I just kind of stay to that person.
Okay.
You know.
Fantastic. I like that. All right. We're coming up on the end of this interview, so let's have a little fun. I'm going to ask you a quick question. Do you watch martial art film? Do you watch kung fu movies? Or is that, in your opinion, is that just silliness? You never would watch those types of things. I grew up on, not just watching Bruce Lee, but I grew up on Jackie Chan movies. I watched Shaw Brothers films and things of that nature. Is that a vice for you? Do you ever watch those things? Or is that, you consider that to be like silliness or something that you don't really enjoy?
I mean, I've learned to appreciate it through time. I think sometimes when you watch it a certain time in your life, you might be too critical and be like, you know what, that's not real, and there's no point of watching that. You know, it's like younger in my teenage years, but as I get older, I'm like, start to really appreciate the deepness of what the movie represents. Like, one of my favorite movies is like Fearless, Jet Li. It's like an amazing movie. With with the storyline and everything. It's like one of my favorite movies. Another movie that I really love is Hero.
Oh yeah.
You know, and then when I first watched Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, I was too young to appreciate it. I was like, man, that's trash. What are they doing flying around?
Wire work
but then later on, it's like one of my favorite movies. It's like the storyline. With the love and all that. And Jackie Chan, you know, he has some entertaining movies. Obviously, you know, people love to see his stunts, and he is skilled. You know, so I appreciate some of his movies. I had to learn to appreciate the Rush Hour 1, 2, and 3. You know, even sometimes I felt like it kind of set back the Chinese culture with some of the joking around.
You and I see things very similarly.
But eventually I started to be like, you know what, that was, you know, well-made movies. And I think that people that have that enthusiasm towards the Chinese, you know, movies, martial arts, it really brings like honor to the Kung Fu as a whole. So I really do appreciate the people that value that, you know, because those are the type of people that might join this school. And even though I look at martial arts a lot more serious, kind of like Bruce, I do appreciate people that are maybe not so serious, because it's like, it's kind of like a balance, like appreciating Jackie and appreciating Bruce. Bruce is like, you know what, there's not gonna be any type of disrespect for the Chinese in our movies at all. And then Jackie Chan's like, let's just have play and have fun, and you know, we don't have to take this too seriously. You know, but they're both, you know, they're both contributing some positives to kind of promoting the Chinese culture. You know, so I do have my own energy and what I feel comfortable in the martial arts, but as far as like the technique and what is truly like the ultimate skill level and technique, I don't see anybody doing that movies other than Bruce. I mean, I'm just being real about it.
Respect,
you know?
absolutely. Okay, well, I want you to take this time right now to look right into that camera. I want you to sell your company, tell people where you're located, your hours, your phone number, all that good stuff, and hopefully we'll get you some business.
All right. So this is Freddies Modern Kung Fu. We're at 1642 West Howard Street. That's Chicago, Illinois, 60626. My email or my website is freddiesmodernkungfu.com. My email is freddiesmodernkungfu@live.com. My phone number is 773-465-8888. Best way to reach me if you're interested in training is to text me at that number. Been here for 15 years, and I really want to build up kind of like just people that are true martial artists, you know, that value spirit, that value meditation, that it's not just all about the fighting, but really training yourself to better yourself and to kind of come to more peace. You know, there are huge followers of these combat sports, no matter be wrestling, boxing, MMA, but I want to establish people that want to go to the arts, specifically the Chinese martial arts, and not just the Chinese martial arts, but in my case, it's the Chinese American martial arts, you know, because I was born here in America, but I'm still promoting, you know, where my parents came from, Hong Kong. And that's where Bruce Lee came from, Hong Kong. But he spent half his life in Hong Kong, half his life in America. That's what made him so unique. He's not just Chinese. He's Chinese American, and that's what I am. As you see, I'm speaking English. You know, I got to get better at my Cantonese as well. So it's like, I want to connect with the people that truly value, you know, Kung Fu and the martial arts. And I'm excited about this opportunity to be able to be interviewed this way and to share a part of this art.
Thank you. So there you have it, folks. Check out my man. Come to the north side of Chicago. Get that real training, all right? This has been Lone Wolf and Cub. Thank you so much for having us here, Sifu. I truly appreciate you. We out.